What up guys, SuperMetal983 here bringing us another album review, and this time I've got some very tasty deathcore for you to check out. If you're into your heavy stuff, then this is definitely an album for you. But today I'm going to be reviewing the new album from the band Spite, entitled Dedication to Flesh. This is released under Rise Records in 2022. Now, if you're not too familiar with Spite, they're a 5-piece deathcore band hailing from the US, and I've been a fan of these guys for quite a while now, and I first got properly introduced to this band back in 2019 when they released The Root of All Evil. Now this album, for me when I first heard it, it absolutely blew us away with its relentlessness, its intensity and its aggression. It just set apart itself from the other deathcore bands at the time, in my personal opinion. And I had checked out Spike before, but like their older material, I was like, it's okay, but this album for me definitely clicked straight away for us. I absolutely loved it. And then I sort of worked my way back through their discography, where I checked out their 2017 album, Nothing Is Beautiful, which is absolutely incredible once again. I think this one I've been spinning the most lately in the lead up to this album, as well as the singles and stuff like that. But yeah, really solid album. And their self-titled album, I know they released an EP called Misery, I believe, back in the day. But their self-titled album and the Misery EP, I wasn't too keen on at first, and then last year or earlier this year, I checked out the deluxe edition of the self-titled album, and I was really fucking impressed. I was like, okay, why did this not click with me? This is right up my fucking alley. But then again, you know, times change, you know. But I absolutely love this band, and I was really hyped for this new album, especially when they dropped the lead single, which was called Made to Please, which is only 3 minutes. It's quite a short song, but in that small amount of time, it delivers an absolute punch to the face. It's absolutely incredible, and to be honest, it's become one of my favourite songs of the year. I can't stop listening to that. It's absolutely incredible. And then they released a couple of singles leading up to it. I believe they released Caved In, Hangman, and also when the album was due to drop, they released Dedication to Flesh, but announced that the album would be pushed back a little bit. And to be honest, I wasn't too sad, because I was like, you know, it's only like 2 weeks or something like that. I can wait. And honestly, I think Dedication to Flesh was the only single that I didn't actually listen to before the album was released. I listened to the other ones, because like on Apple Music it had the 3 songs, and I just whacked that into a playlist and stuff like that. But Dedication to Flesh just kind of missed us in that point. And then last week the album dropped, and I'm here to do an album review for you, because I've been listening to this non-stop, and I felt like, you know what, it's a good album to get the momentum going, you could say. So yeah, it's 12 tracks and runs around 40 minutes in length, and what can I say about this album? In short, just to kind of spoil things a little bit, this is now, so far, my album of the year for 2022. Like, I've listened to a lot of heavy albums and some absolutely amazing albums in general this year, from the likes of Last 10 Seconds of Life, Shadow of Intent, Malevolence, fucking Pint Glass. There's been so many great, solid albums this year. Some that, but none has really gave us that, like, wow factor, to be honest. Like, a lot of them's, like, impressed us because I knew what the bands are capable of. Whereas this one, this has gave us that wow factor. And honestly, ever since it dropped, I have had this album on repeat so much. Like, there's been other albums I've wanted to check out, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to stick that Spite album on, because this, in my opinion, is the Spite album that I wanted, and it has delivered on all fronts. This is just, from beginning to end, an absolute relentless assault. Like, this is pure modern deathcore aggression. It's definitely got that kind of like hardcore-esque to it. You can tell it's got that kind of influence from the likes of like Body Snatcher or the Acacia Strain. It kind of falls into that sort of part where I wouldn't exactly describe it as hardcore, but the aggression and the riffs kind of like play off that sort of influence, in my opinion. So if that sounds up your alley, then this is definitely that kind of album. But on top of that, it does still have the relentless deathcore vibes that I wanted to hear, because when I first heard The Root of All Evil, I think the earlier stuff I thought was more straight up down-tempo influenced, and for all at the time, it might not have been my thing because there was a lot of bands coming out in the down-tempo movement at the time. But nowadays, like, I think, well, wait a minute, I've obviously heard them wrong. Whereas I feel like Spite have just got more and more frantic in their songwriting in a way, and a lot more faster paced, but also keeping it heavy, keeping it brutal, and keeping it as barbaric as you can. And this album definitely encapsulates that. And I will say, this album, I wouldn't say it's an album that when you listen to it, it's just there to be the most brutal sounding album, the most heaviest sounding album. It's just there to bring absolute relenting high energy and just overall just make you want to dance, mosh, two-step, you know, get into the pit and just have a good time. That's what this album perfectly encapsulates for me, and especially when it comes to the deathcore genre, because a lot of the deathcore genre is just blast beats and breakdowns, whereas this one, I feel, has a little, I would say it's got that hardcore aspect, but it's got the groove aspect in there to make it sound a little bit more catchy, a little bit more interesting sounding, because the song progressions, it is angry as it gets, but it just feels intense to listen to. Like, the production, I think, definitely complements that, because I feel like the last album was very clear, very crisp sounding, and to be honest, like, although I was expecting them to go a little bit more thicker in the production sound, like just to make it sound a bit more oomph, this one definitely has more of a same sort of aspect to The Root of All Evil. I think it definitely has that crisp, clear production, but it still packs a punch. Every bit of clarity and intensity from the musicians themselves, from hitting the drum skins to hitting the strings on the guitar. You can feel it's just utter aggression and a lot of attack being played on this album, and it definitely complements in the songwriting, from the relentlessly fast tremolo pick guitars to the heavy, chunky, slammy-esque breakdowns on there. It has it all when it comes to a really solid deathcore album. It definitely has that factor, but it is catchy and memorable to listen to. Like, listening to this album from beginning to end, I feel like each song has its own little character, but like, it's still relentless from beginning to end on the record. Like, it doesn't let up, but each song has a different sort of character and aspect to it that you can identify which pummeling factor is going to come next. Like, from Lords of the Upside Down, it definitely just hits you with that groove and that intensity from the get-go, and that, I feel, sets up the album pretty well. But as it progresses, there's no filler. It's just all-out heaviness and brutal assault. It's not just breakdowns, as I said. It's got riffs that you want to mosh to, and circle. You can even circle pit to a lot of the tracks on here, which, to be honest, for a deathcore band like this, I never thought I would say, okay, you can circle pit to that shit. I absolutely love it, to be fair, and I think it's one of the best sounding albums from beginning to end, just song for song. It's absolutely incredible. Now, Made to Please was the first song, and I believe they announced that it signed to Rise Records, and I was like, okay, we've got a new album coming. And for all that being one of the shorter songs on the album, it's not the shortest song on the album, but it has that impact that it's like, okay, that's your taster for the album, what you're going to expect. And the other singles that they released are absolutely incredible, but I feel like the way they've scattered them out in release, and I know that one, but in between, it's like, okay, it's getting heavier, it's getting more intense, it's getting a lot more attack going for it. It feels like animosity in a music form. That's the best way I can describe it. Although I would say Dedication to Flesh has become one of my favourite songs on this album, as well as Made to Please, I would personally say my favourite song on this album has to be The Most Ugly, which is the 7th song on this album. With that kind of like fade out that Dedication to Flesh has, and then going into like sombre sort of eerie sort of clean guitar sort of intro. It really and then goes into that build up sort of chord thing, and it's just like, okay, this is setting up for something big, and then it comes back in with a Spite cult, just utter aggression, and you're just like, yeah, this is definitely Spite. And then you get hit at the end with one of the most maniacal and just disgusting breakdowns that I have heard this year. And if you haven't heard it, I'd urge you all to check it out. I think it's an absolute masterpiece of a song, and definitely my favourite song on this album. And also, leave a comment down below. What's your favourite breakdown so far this year? One that makes you fill you with so much intensity. Let us know down below. Maybe I've checked it out, maybe I haven't, but let us know in the comments. But yeah, absolutely incredible from beginning to end. And I will say, Spite's signature thing for me is Darius, because I think his vocals are some of the best vocal ranges I've heard on any deathcore band going today, in my opinion. From his really disgusting high vocals to his monstrous lows and those filthy gut-wrenching gutturals. They are some of my favourite gutturals in the deathcore circuit at the moment. But I always think his signature, and everyone knows this, his signature is his mid-range, which is sort of like the best way I can describe it is kind of like a ranty, hardcore sort of vocal, kind of fits in line with like some Paleface, Knocked Loose, and Straight From The Past, sort of that sort of ranty, aggressive sort of factor, but it sounds filled with animosity in it. You can feel a lot of intensity, but I feel like compared to the Root of All Evil, he's learned a little bit more of pitching his vocals from each sort of tone, from his mids, lows and highs, like the pitching together a little bit more nicely, and it just makes for a little bit more of a exquisite listen in a way. Like, it shows that he's progressing in his vocal delivery, but knows when to do those vocals. Like those vocals that aren't there just to be the most disgusting or the most intense vocals. They are there because it fits right with the lyrics, it fits right with the song, it's there in a coherent sort of way, and I absolutely love it, and I feel that when I listen to this album from beginning to end. In my opinion, there's no fillers on this album, or any lackluster songs, should we say. It is, from beginning to end, an absolute masterpiece, and definitely, so far, my favourite album of 2022. There's been some incredible albums so far, and there's a few more albums that I can picture that's going to give this a run for its money, shall we say, like, but for now, I can't get enough of this album. This album's been on repeat so much the past week, and I urge you all to check it. It is absolutely incredible. I can't fault it. Absolute aggression, deathcore perfection, if you ask me. For an overall score, this is my first album that I've done in a while. This first album review, yeah, my super metal recommendations, you could say, oh, that's mini album reviews, but for full album review of this year's like releases, I'm going to start off strong. This is a 10 out of 10 album. Absolutely incredible. It's up there with the likes of Malicious Intent by Malevolence, which might be a new review at some point. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but yeah, this is absolutely fucking incredible. I absolutely love this record, and Spite are here to conquer all, and I'm hopefully going to see them on the, what's the tour? Never Say Die. The Never Say Die tour with Suicide Silence, After the Burial, Spite, Invent, Animate, and Boundaries. I think there's a couple of other bands on there, but yeah, if you're going to one of those dates, I might see you there. But yeah, I cannot wait to see these guys live and hear these songs. This is an absolute masterpiece. But yeah, make sure you check out my Super Metal Riffs for Days playlist down below on Spotify, and make sure to subscribe. More videos are going to be coming soon. I'm keeping this momentum going as much as I can. But yeah, I'll see you until next video, and remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.